Retreat left lane!
Communication is the cornerstone of good cooperation, so it's no surprise that MOBAs, such as Riot Games' League of Legends and Hi-Rez's Smite, aim to provide players methods of communication to help facilitate gameplay. In a competitive environment, the difference between a call-out on time and a late one can be the difference between a win or a loss. But sometimes players will use these communication methods in ways developers may not have intended, often being used in ways described as toxic. Toxic behavior is defined by Hae-Woon Kwok-in and Jeremy Blackburn in their study Linguistic Analysis of Toxic Behavior in an Online Video Game as bad behavior that violates social norms, inflicts misery, continues to cause harm after it occurs, and affects an entire community. But why have players started finding new ways to communicate their toxicity? First, let's examine the communication methods in both League of Legends and Smite. League of Legends provides players with ample communication methods. The most basic is the chat box, allowing players to type freely to both their teammates but also the enemy team. Next, they have 4 basic pings: danger, enemy missing, on my way, requiring assistance, as well as 2 others: enemy has vision here, and a more basic ping. But League also lets you get a bit more in depth with their pings, giving you the ability to ping just about everything: ability cooldowns, items, jungle spawns, champions, almost anything you can think of, you can ping. Lastly, League has emotes as well as champion emotes and taunts. Smite also has a variety of communication options available. Like League, they have the basic chat box, but theirs only allows you to type to your team. They also have a pinging system, although more rudimentary, only having 3 pings, one for retreat, one for attack, and a more basic one like in League. Unique to Smite is their voice-guided system, or VGS, which allows for quick callouts with just a few button presses.
Wait!
Lastly is the player emotes: laugh, clap, wave, and jump. Now, players will use these communication methods for their intended use, offering insight, tactics, giving warnings, and just overall friendly banter. However, when the tilt occurs, these methods become weapons of toxicity. So let's examine how each of these methods are used in a toxic fashion. The easiest to understand is the chat box. As you can see in these examples, players will argue in chat and insult each other over mistakes in the game. Next, let's take a look at the pinging system. Similar but different, players in both League of Legends and Smite will spam ping other players they believe are playing poorly, shown in these clips. Up next is Smite's VGS, being used sarcastically as well as uniquely to convey messages that were probably not intended. The most infamous is the spam of "You rock, cancel that." But why have players started using pings or creatively using VGS instead of just explicitly flaming in chat? The answer is, they don't want to get banned. Riot Games states on their website that after receiving a ban, either temporary or permanent, you will receive your chat logs showing exactly what you said that got you banned. Hi-Rez has a similar stance on bans, giving out suspensions for leaving, harassment of other players, harassment of live streamers, intentionally feeding, and chat spam. In both games, suspensions or bans are rarely given out unless you are spamming chat with explicit language. However, assuming you don't actually type and only use other forms of toxic communication, you will be able to circumvent your ban indefinitely. Which raises the question of which players will still use explicit language and which will use other forms of toxicity such as spam pinging. The answer lies in the ranking system in both of these games. Both Smite and League of Legends have ranked game modes, which place players in tiers. In League, the tiers go from Iron to Challenger, and in Smite, they go from Bronze to Grandmaster. In order to reach these higher tiers, you must be very skilled at the game and dedicate a lot of time to it. In a study conducted by Edward Lyman and William Herner titled "How Does Toxicity Change Depending on Rank in League of Legends?", their results showed that lower ranked players communicate their toxicity differently than higher ranked players. They found that lower ranked players would use explicit language and insults, while higher ranked players would use what they referred to as domain language, or language that requires game knowledge to understand, such as in-game references or alternate use of the pinging system. It's clear that League has developed its own toxic language, focused on the use of pings and domain language, while Smite has developed their own, focused on using pings and creative use of the VGS. By transforming these communication methods, toxic players have carved out their own subculture fit with a sublanguage that is understood by the mass player base. Whether the developers wanted it or not, the communication methods they designed have been hijacked and abused for toxicity.
I'm impressed! Cancel that.